Confucius. End. Renovating the People. Tien Cong Tran, Ph.D. Section 1. Renovating the People. After brightening the bright virtue, the task of the great learning is renovating the people. Renovating the people is renovating everyone. Everyone is everyone, including oneself as well as others. Why is there renovating? What is renovating? The way is not far from man. Man daily lives, in a certain manner, in the way. However, one essential characteristic of the way is its hiddenness. The way appears and hides itself at the same time. Man lives in ignorance or far from the way. Because man is far from the way, he needs to be renovated. Therefore, renovating a man is making a man far from the way become a man near the way. In his interpretation, Chuang Tzu said, "One day, every day, daily let there be renovation, and therefore the superior man in everything uses his utmost endeavors." Why is renovation to be repeated daily and with utmost endeavors? Perhaps there are two main reasons. The first reason, man always tends to forget the way. Today a man can know the way and follow it, but tomorrow he will forget it. The way is the way a man should walk on. Today a man wants to walk on the way, but tomorrow he will not want to walk on it. Man has good nature, he loves the way. But man also has greed for the material world, his greed is unfathomable. We have said that the way is the mean, harmony between the way and material things. It is hard for man to keep this equilibrium. That is the reason why to follow the way requires daily renovation and utmost endeavors in this renovation. Mencius talks about how man loses the way. Mencius says, "The trees of Niu mountain were once beautiful. Being situated, however, in the borders of a large state, they were hewn down with axes and bills, and could they retain their beauty? Still through the activity of the rain and dew, they were not without buds and sprouts springing forth, but then came the cattle and goats and browsed upon them. To these things is owing the bare and stripped appearance of the mountain, and when people now see it, they think it was never finely wooded. But is this the nature of the mountain? And so also of what properly belongs to man, shall it be said that the mind was without benevolence and righteousness? The way in which a man loses his proper goodness of mind is like the way in which the trees are denuded by axes and bills. Hewn down day after day, can the mind retain its beauty? But there is a development of its life day and night, and in the air of the morning, just between night and day, the mind feels in a degree those desires and aversions which are proper to humanity, but the feeling is not strong, and it is fettered and destroyed by what takes place during the day. This fettering taking place again and again, the restorative influence of the night is not sufficient to preserve the goodness of the mind, and when this proves insufficient for that purpose, the nature becomes not much different from that of the irrational animals, and when people now see it, they think that it never had those powers. But does this condition represent the feelings proper to humanity? The second reason, the way always appears, but it never appears fully. In other words, the way has numerous aspects, numerous levels, and it always appears in some aspects, some levels. The doctrine of the mean says, the way of the superior man reaches wide and far, and yet secret. Common men and women, however ignorant, may intermeddle with the knowledge of it, yet in its utmost reaches, there is that which even the sage does not know. Because the way always appears a little, people always realize it a little. Because the way never appears fully, people can never realize it fully. The doctrine of the mean continues, common men and women can carry into practice a part of it, yet in its utmost reaches, there is that even the sage is not able to carry it in practice. That is reason why to follow the way requires daily renovation and the utmost endeavor in this renovation. Renovation is bringing a man in his fallenness back to the way that is always present in his heart. The way is always there but forgotten. If we know how to nourish it, it will return. Therefore, if it receives its proper nourishment, there is nothing that will not grow. If it lose its proper nourishment, there is nothing which will not decay away. Section 2. Renovating the people and present education. It is undeniable that present education has become popular. Human knowledge becomes abundant. The knowledge is divided into numerous specific domains because a person is unable to study that abundant knowledge. Present knowledge provides us vast understanding of material. If we look into the twofold and the distinction between the way and things, we will see that present sciences talks about things. There are also studies of religions and philosophy. But they are optional and not obligatory. They are not basic studies in human education. Confucius education aims at brightening the bright virtue or the way. Renovation the people is making them recognize the way. So, we must admit the education that Confucius aims at in the great learning is not our present education. If there is the way and if the way constitutes the essence of man, we must admit that there is a serious deficiency in our present education. We should take note that the way is not something Confucius creates. The way is always in man. Confucius is only a man who sees the way that is always present, yet hidden, in man. In the present world, religions and philosophy have lost their decision. This loss expresses the fact that man is far from the way. Man no longer sees the way. If man is far from the way, he is, speaking according to Mencius, not much far from animals. Heidegger, a philosopher of our present time, says that, without the way, being, humans would descend to the level of mere beasts and even lower. Today people pay attention to material. Thinking of material is thinking of profit. They no longer pay attention to the way. If they think of profit only, they will go into lying. Lying to get profit is also good. They even create a study to teach man how to live in lies. They even educate, with costing so much money, a class of persons to take care of lies. The Mencius begins with the problem of profit and the way. Mencius went to see King Hui of Liang. The king said, "Venerable sir, since you have not counted it far to come here, a distance of 1,000 miles, may I presume that you are provided with counsels to profit my kingdom?" Mencius replied, "Why must your majesty use the word profit? What I am provided with, are only words to benevolence and righteousness. The way is always present in man's heart. If we know how to hold it, it remains with us. If we do not know how to hold it, we lose it." Confucius said, "Hold it fast, and it remains with you. Let it go, and you lose it. Its outgoing and incoming cannot be defined as to time or place. It is the mind of which this is said." Section 3. Why is there the question of renovating the people? There are the material world and the way. Man tends to forget the way. Confucius says, "I have never seen anyone who loves benevolence, nor one who loathes unbenevolence." According to Jesus, the gate to the material world is wide and the gate to the way is narrow. This is a fact of life. So, renovating the people is a task that should be repeated every day. Each person must renovate himself every day. He must remind himself the truth of the twofold: suffering lies in the material world and happiness lies in the way. The task of renovating the people is composed of the cultivation of the person, the regulation of the family, the government of the state, and the pacification of the world.